as you may see, I'm recording this lecture for further use, and you can also use the recording to see or review what I said on this event on later occasion. I'll add the link to this lecture recording to the multiple pages of the course. So, anyway, welcome to the Game Development Project course. This is the first implementation of this course this year. This course is a bit different than usually because there's several ways of how to complete this course. You can do this fundamentals of Unity on this fall semester. There's a code camp called Finnish Game Jam Code Camp, which is part of a global game jam event just after the end of the year in January, which gives you more credits on this game development project. And then there's the third option, which is the game development crash course, which extends from the fourth period over the summer to next fall. So overall, you can take 3 units of this game development project and gain 13 study credits from this course, in addition to the 504 which you get from this one. Okay, so let's get started. So today's agenda is that since this course doesn't have any weekly lectures or even weekly exercises, the idea is that this course promotes self-study or assisted self-study on Unity game development engine and Unity game development environment. I'll also put these slides online, so you don't have to write everything down on these slides, but just make your own notes if there's something you like to remember. So, generally, today the 2 hours I'm going to talk, or well, more or less more than an hour, is about the aim of this course, how you can pass this particular unit, and general topics on designing games, and what is the tool Unity you will be using for the rest of this course. So basically, the course objectives are set in the schedule that after finishing this course, you understand how game development differs from the traditional software projects, can apply software development skills in game context, and understand the possibilities and restrictions of the game products, and identify the skills required for professional game development. Okay, so this, well, what it actually means is that you get an idea on how to develop games with modern game engine. You get the introductory stuff about the Unity game engine itself, and understand or can identify the tools and things you need to use for game development. You also get some idea on what game development is, considering that if you want to find a job, for example, in the games development industry, you can you get the idea of what skills to learn and what sort of stuff you have to teach yourself, and of course enable everyone to develop games with the Unity on the Finnish Game Jam event, which is the next course on game development at our department. So basically, the idea is that you get the first impressions of modern game development, learn how to use Unity, and learn some of the fundamental skills on how to make games. So, why are we using Unity? The Unity game engine, unity3d.com, is a separate thing from the Unity windowing system or user interface system applied by Linux. The Unity game engine is right now the most used 3D capable and now 2D capable game engine in the world. The one reason why we are using this on this course is that it's actually free. The standard version, which is extendable or usable enough to actually publish a full commercial game, doesn't cost you anything. It just is completely free, available for download in the unity3d.com website. It's easy to learn since there's wealth of tutorials and stuff on the internet. There's several books about it. There's one book on our library which isn't particularly good, or the second version isn't very good, but there's several tutorials, several books, several information sites or repositories telling you how to do different projects and different stuff with the Unity. It's compatible with most game development related tools. If you already know something like a Blender or 3D Studio Max, you just basically drag and drop your model into Unity engine, and it is able to do all the import work and other things automatically. So if you already know something about games, you probably can use that existing experience with the Unity. It has easy to interface. You can do fine adjustment, all sorts of things actually without even touching the program code. Of course, you have to do programming work to get the different scripts working, like calculating collisions or having the enemies or robots or whatever follow you. But basically, you just manipulate different objects in different scenes, and then everything works with drag and drop or just adjust some value interface. You don't have to have billions and billions of sub-pages open for every little script or adjust things in command prompt or anything like that. Also, if you want to play with the physics or stuff like that, it's easy to make adjustments to lighting or physics calculations and stuff like that. Well, also, it's compatible with almost every gaming relevant platform. So if you learn how to use Unity, you can develop stuff for Xbox, PlayStation, iPhone, other mobile platforms, PC, basically everything. So more or less, you are covered with the basics if you learn to do stuff with Unity. And of course, the final reason is that since it's extendable and it has internal store site, a bit like App Store, but for different scripts or animation studios or models and stuff like that, you don't actually even have to be able to draw stuff. You can just buy yourself model libraries or use the existing free libraries. So you can focus on programming work and leave the drawing and modeling work to someone who's more capable in that specific area. So some games which have been done with Unity. The engine itself is quite adjustable. It has ability to do completely fluent 3D graphics. Now with extensions, also use the same approach with 2D graphics, so you don't have to select the game type based on the fact that you are using Unity engine. For example, the Kerbal Space Program is completely done with Unity. It's sort of a physics game where you are recreating the different space programs done by NASA in the 60s and 70s. You can build space stations and do lunar landings, or even go to the Mars, provided that you can actually design a spacecraft that is capable of doing that trip and don't screw up with the steering work. For example, I once created otherwise excellent moon landing, but the craft went upside down there, so basically it just created a large crater there. But anyway, you can create stuff for the Kerbal Space Program. So other thing, which also is done with Unity, is scrolls. This is the other game from the company that made Minecraft. So this is just more or less a card game, similar to Magic the Gathering or other fantasy card games, and it's also done with Unity. It's completely done with it, and everything you see on the screen is actually run by the Unity engine. Similarly, Space Hulk, 3D strategy game. Unlike, for example, the Kerbal Space Program, this has more rigid rules of a set of rules, and it's turn-based and all the other things. So basically, this is sort of a horror strategy game, whereas the Kerbal Space Program was more or less a simulation. And finally, a bit surprisingly actually, also the Bad Piggies by Rovio Entertainment is completely done with Unity. And Bad Piggies is a game which exists currently only for tablets and smartphones. So more or less you can rest assured that if you use Unity, you really don't have restrictions on what game to select. So on this note, I'll show a couple of simple features from how this Unity has been used in our department earlier. So at least I hope I did take a couple of examples with me for this game. So I'm using precompiled games here, since the Unity is rather sorry, let's use the windowed mode here. Unity is rather heavy program to start. So, okay, so this is a Roboki. This is a really simple game which was created as one of a sort of a project work by one of our master's thesis students. The idea was only to explore what sort of skill gaps we have with our existing courses when compared to development of actual game. So this is just a project work for that. So we have a robot and we can control it. We have enemies trying to shoot us. We have life bars and other sort of stuff. Now would you please... good. So we can destroy the robots, and we are running in a maze trying to find a key before the time runs out, and when we find the key, we just, more or less win the level. The labyrinth is almost always a bit different. There's some set areas, but it's somewhat randomly generated, and the key is on random location, but there's also algorithms taking care that the key is actually foundable. So all the basic stuff exists, and as you can see, there's a volcano on the background and island and all the other things, and basically just the standard stuff really, things you would expect to have in a video game. There's the guy running towards us. The enemy AI, artificial intelligence, tries to find us. When the robot sees us, then they start to follow us. Before they see the player character, or there's a direct line between them, they just more or less wander around in the maze. That's to ensure that, this guy wanders around a bit weirdly, but anyway, that's to assure that we actually don't get crowded by the AI characters, so that everyone doesn't always pile on us when we start the level. The artificial intelligence is, it behaves a bit weirdly, but anyway, there's all the basic stuff here, and explosions and particle effects and stuff like that. Anyway, but that's just something that was created to demonstrate how the Unity basic functionalities exist and work, and get the idea of what sort of things to do with the audio development and other things. There, the game has sound effects and other things. Of course, now they are disabled, but you just have to believe me that there is actually soundtrack and all other sorts of stuff there. Okay, so that game was developed by one master's thesis student as a technology test to see how AI is implemented in the Unity and how sound effects are done. So, other things. So, we might not be making the next Call of Duty game here, or anything like World of Warcraft or any as such, but technically that's possible to do. So the idea is that you are able to get all these things done. Of course, all people aren't excellent graphical designers or modelers or artists, or don't have the necessary capabilities to make their own soundtracks or select very excellent or edit very excellent sound design for their work. But the idea is that you are able to do some sound effects work, add background noise, background music, add animated characters into the game, stuff like that. So don't get stressed out by the fact that you may not be able to draw stuff. I'm not capable of drawing anything more complicated than UML diagrams, but still I'm fairly certain I'm fairly capable of creating stuff from pre-existing components. And it's like I said earlier, the artistic merit isn't something that we are trying to do here. So basically, like I said on earlier occasion, this is the first step on our smallish program on how to do games. So we have 3 steps: the fundamentals of Unity, code camp, and game development course. So the idea is that we are now applying the existing computer science knowledge in games and learning something about game-specific technologies and fundamental stuff. Going towards the game development course and stuff makes you able to work in games industry, makes you more confident in doing group work and finding your own thing here. So, the assisted self-study means that we don't have weekly lectures or demos or exercises or anything. We have follow-up days on which we have some program. I'm going to talk about how game companies work. We might have industry visitor here talking about how some game was developed or what sort of things we are currently doing at this region in the games industry. So you might want to come to listen to those. But basically, you are more or less on your own. You can get help if you are using ERC. Then we have a channel of the local game development club in it, which is a place where you can ask for help. I have a consulting hour, and of course, always you can send me email to ask stuff. So, then what are we actually doing? Hi, just take a seat. So how are we going to actually pass this course? Well, this one has 2 projects. Well, technically you have 3 projects, since the first part is that you choose 2 of the beginner level projects from the Unity website and complete those. Based on what you learned with those 2 Unity projects, you are then expected to design your own game, something simple really, and make me a game design document, and based on that game design document you will then create that game with the Unity. So basically you start with the tutorial projects, making the Unity tutorials, and then doing your personal project which you can yourself define and design, and I'll just comment on it and add some things if it's, well, too simple. But anyway, when you are designing your personal project, I still have to remind you that we are only 3 months away from Christmas and end of the year. So keep your design relatively simple. We are implementing something like Breakout or Space War or Pac-Man or Mario Bros, the arcade game, not the platformer. The arcade game, which almost no one remembers, is just about the player characters jumping on enemies and throwing them away from the screen. It doesn't have any platforming stuff and that sort of things. Anyway, the tutorial project, you may read from somewhere that this course uses the Unity book by Sue Blackman, but this year we are not going to enforce that book. The book is well, the first edition was quite nice way to get familiar with how the different parts of Unity work. But unfortunately, the second edition, which is the current enough that it could be used with this, the current version of the Unity, actually introduces so many problems and other things, unnecessary things, that we aren't using it this year. So you can do the Unity tutorials, but if you especially want to complete some other tutorial from some book or somewhere else, that's also possible, but you have to get approval from me before you do that. So if you find something interesting, something that you really, really want to try out from the internet, then you can ask me if that's good enough to replace one of your tutorial projects or tutorial works. It's fine by me. There's only a handful of tutorials in the Unity website, so you can. I might expect that some of you may find something more interesting. So when you start with the personal project, or start to design your game design document, the things I want to have written down are the general theme, the main characters, or what happens in your game. Are you going to try out for shooter, platformer, or puzzle game? What are the important features, story, if there is any, and technical decisions. So I want you to design before you implement. So you can then compare your original idea to one that actually you ended up with. Also, this is how the games industry sells their ideas to the publishers and other places. They first make the design or some marketing prototype, and then when they have sold the idea, they start to do the actual game itself. So the general theme, characters, genre, most important features. If you have story, a couple of words about that, and technical decisions. For example, that you will only use black and white colors, or, well, grayscale colors, because of the artist. You have this sort of an idea for artistic vision, and you want to try that out. All these things. Okay, so on the personal project, I have to emphasize the fact that I want you to keep the design simple. So this is Breakout. This is one of the first video games in home entertainment history. Of course, the Pong is the more earlier one, but that required 2 players. So this is basically the 1-player version of Pong. You don't have to worry about multiplayer if you do something based on this design. You have only one platform, you have one ball going around based on physics, and platforms you want to break. And when you have destroyed everything, you have certain score based on time or whatever. That's for personal project in this fundamentals course good enough. Also, other ideas you might want to try out. Of course, the Mario Bros. Here. I just included it there. And then there's Pac-Man and a couple of other examples. Those who don't know what this is, it's one of the worst games in known history. You can replicate that one, I don't really mind, but, well, I'd say that you might want to learn from that. Or, if you are really ambitious, you can also try to do this. And that's more or less something that I would at least want to see if someone wants to try it out. Anyway, on this aspect of design, I want to show a short demonstration. So you might think that, okay, I have to design something that's really cool and stuff like that. But I'd say that the keep it simple is a good plan here, because you will run out of time if you try to do too much content. For example, I have this sort of demonstration here. It's nothing more than a ball that's just jumping around, and a platform I'm controlling with the mouse, and I'm just trying to keep the ball on the platform. Really simple stuff, nothing really fancy here. Okay, so someone might consider that, okay, why we have this, it's nothing interesting, but, well, we can do some adjustments, make a small game out of it. So this is the second version of the game. So now we have heart, we have tray, we are trying to keep the heart from falling down, and of course, well, there's some small details to hone, but still, this is absolutely the same concept. We have ball, we have the level, and we are trying to just keep the heart on the tray. Okay, so sort of an idea. Basically, still the same stuff. There's bouncing object and platform, which tries to keep the object afloat. Okay, so if we do one additional thing, add sounds, which again you won't be able to hear, but still there are sounds, and do some animation and camera trickery and stuff like that, we more or less have entire game where we are trying to rush into the emergency room for heart transplant. I don't know where it went, well, and this more or less is, well, keep losing the heart, but still it's more or less a game. Well, I'm not very good at this, but anyway, that's the really simple idea. Heart, okay, now I used my forehead to bounce it back on the platform, but still, it's really simple idea, but it uses enough Unity or game design trickery to actually make it really usable game. Add start screen or reset screens and high scores and stuff like that, and put it online, and someone will play it. Okay, so of course, since this is course on game design and game development, there's some restrictions. Of course, the most obvious restriction is that this project has to be self-made. Surprisingly, you have to make your own project work. There's no teams allowed here, so you can't work in pairs, but you can help each other, as long as you just mention it on the documentation or in-game credits or somewhere else. This is not government secret or something like the secret project for government. You are allowed to help each other, but everyone has to make their individual contribution. Okay, so then there's also the asset store. Like I said earlier, the Unity has extensive collection of objects, sound effects, even pre-existing levels and stuff like that on their asset store. Some of it is free, some of it is commercial stuff requiring credit card for use. You are allowed to use asset store stuff. The free stuff, well, if you think it works in your game, go ahead. You can even buy assets if you feel like it. You have to register your credit card and make yourself an account. Actually, you have to make the account even if you're using the free stuff. It doesn't cost anything. It just ensures that whenever you are using Unity again, you have the access to the same asset sets that you have unlocked or bought earlier. So it just follows you around. But if you want to use your own credit card to complete this course, why not? But anyway, make a mention of all the external assets, including code, models, stuff like that, which you found from the internet, which wasn't your own design or which was modified from existing source. Of course, the tutorial project assets and stuff like that doesn't have to be mentioned, but if you bought something or used something, then make a mention of it. This also cannot be an earlier project. So I think there's only a couple of people here who have already participated on some other game development course, but this project has to be made for this course particular. It cannot be last year's Finnish Game Jam work honed a bit further or something like that, it has to be your personal project has to be the one you designed yourself on the game with the game design document. You are also not allowed to use illegally acquired assets. You have to be able to show where you got each model. We are not trying to make the Limbo of the Lost game here. You may probably not know it, but if you Google the name Limbo of the Lost, it's a spectacular display of dishonesty in game development. Almost every model, texture, sound effect, even some of the mid-game videos were stolen from other movies, other games, interactive representations and stuff like that. So you might want to check it out. It's actually quite fascinating stuff. They managed to copy stuff from something like 200 different games and mash it up into one really weird adventure game. Anyway, and the final restriction is that your game has to work on the standard free Unity version without any commercial add-ons, and the compiled version, which is reviewed, will have to work in Windows 7 workstation with a keyboard and a mouse. It can also be the web deployment version of the game, but still it has to work without any commercial plugins and stuff like that. Also, I recommend that if you have access to the commercial Unity Pro version, if you open your Unity free project with the Pro, you can't no longer use the free version to edit your project if you have even once opened it with the Pro version. So if you start the development work with the free version of Unity, use that, or if you have access to Pro version of the Unity, professional version of the Unity, use that. Do not try to mix it up, because in the worst case scenario you lock yourself out from the project work. Okay, so the schedule is something like this. We have 2 follow-up days, which I haven't decided on yet. The first follow-up day will include a small lecture and discussions about the different tutorial works. Second follow-up day, I try to arrange us a visit from some company representative talking about how their company makes games. For the tutorial project and the game design document, you have until end of the second period to do these, and you have for your own personal project until the Finnish Game Jam Code Camp, which I guess will be the 19th of January. So you can use the New Year gap, the holiday gap, to develop your own game, or if you don't really want to, then you might want to make all the projects before end of the year. But anyway, this course the course credits will be given in February. So, the submissions are, I are then including the design documents and the projects are always reviewed. For the tutorial and the game design document, it's just to show that you have managed to do things and that you have the game design document. I review the submissions on follow-up days or during my consulting hours on Thursdays, or if you are running out of time or are unable to be present at the follow-up day, then you can also arrange separate meeting. But I recommend, or the ideal situation is that the follow-up days are used to review these tutorial projects and stuff. There's usually 2 hours reserved, and only the first hour is used for lectures or visiting lecture or anything. The second hour is to help you or review these projects. Okay, so we'll get back to the personal project. later. So, also one additional thing is that you also have ability to have your game, have ability to review someone else's work. So there's a peer review and teacher review affecting the grading of this course. So each game will be reviewed by two other person who submitted their game, and the calculation for the final grade is something like this. So the peer reviewers are allowed to propose grade. Their average is then averaged against the teacher's grade, and if you did good work with the reviews, then you might get grade upgrade, considering that you actually gave useful feedback and did the work correctly. Also, if you did half-assed job with the reviews, then you will get grade downgrade, but it won't make you fail the course if you manage to go that far that you made all the projects but failed to properly fill out the review documents. Okay, so the things that we are reviewing are sort of are these. How close to the original idea of the design the implementation got, how ambitious the original plan was, how complete the demo is as a game, so is it playable, is it usable, is it deployable, is it already on the App Store or something like that. How many different techniques and functions the game applies and utilizes. So is it designed, is it properly functioning? Does it have animations in proper places? It doesn't have to show off unnecessary things, but is it doing everything that it's expected to do? Okay, since we are also making games, not spreadsheet editors, one of the grading criteria is actually how fun the game is. How much other work is included? Do we have sound effects? Do we have music? How much own textures, own models were created? Most of it is the final polishing work. So how much effort is actually used into the development of the work. And do you have additional documentation or additional stuff, instructions, tutorial levels, these sort of things. So more or less how much effort was used and how close to the original implementation the game got, and how is it a good game, really. We are making games. We want to, from the first the project, consider how fun the game is. Okay, so peer reviewing is mandatory. If you don't give reviews, you won't get grade. The reviews start in January, the deadline is in February, and when all the reviews are gathered, then you will get your final grades. I'll get back to this closer to the actual submission time, but the peer reviews will be anonymous, so you shouldn't know who reviewed your games, and but you can tell someone if you want to. I just want to ensure that if someone gives really, let's say, uncomfortable feedback, then it's not absolutely obvious who said what. Well, we will have separate checklist, and you will also the review work will include some instructions on how to keep it honest and, let's say, how to keep it well balanced, so that if someone has high expectations, they are giving ones and twos, and other ones who are easily impressed will just give best grades ever for everything. Okay, so enrolling to this course, of course, includes sending me an email. This is because we have only one course name or course identification number. So in addition of being in Audi, registered in Audi, web Audi, you should send me an email that enrollment to the GPD, it's of course GDP, Game Development Project, consisting your name, student number, and actively followed email address. Send me this email when you are certain that you will do the tutorial works and you will try to make the personal project. This is just to get an idea how many people are actively participating, so I can know who I should bother with email if there's no one at the follow-up meetings and stuff like that. And finally, I'll just show a couple of slides about the Unity, the mythical tool I've been talking about for 45 minutes now, not actually showing you what it is. So let's talk about the Unity game engine in a couple of words. So, like I said, the free-to-use version is available at unity3d.com, and it's actually something that allows also commercial use. So if you manage to make the next Flappy Bird or Angry Birds or whatever birds, you are allowed to put your project to App Store. Basically everything from lighting to physics to 3D model management, also 2D model management, scenes, user interface, particles, particle effects and stuff like that are handled by Unity, and it uses C# or JavaScript as main programming languages. You are also allowed to use Lua script, but if I remember correctly, there's some restrictions with using Lua, so you are better off using C# or JavaScript. The user interface is drag and drop, and you are managing stuff from the inspector screen. So, the general characteristics. I have one project here, which was the game I developed as an example on last year's game development project. So since we are quite low on resolution, this looks a bit skewed, but usually the inspector is on the lower area here, and well, things happen more or less so that this is the scene. So this is the level editing view. As you can see, here is the player character, explorer here. I can go closer to it, and you can see that this is the character the player is using. There's background trees and other stuff. There's the portal, which will open at some point, and all the objects are more or less just put on the level, so that we take from the project repository different things. For example, this is grass texture, and we also have things like different models. There's a Formula 1 driver, a lawyer, luchador, and well, this sort of a dead guy here. We can add enemies and stuff to the screen. For example, we have these barrels here. The idea on this particular level is to go around and, well, kick those barrels. And when you kick the barrel, the bear runs out and ninjas attack you. Really simple stuff. Of course, crap, I died when I was explaining to you this thing, but well, let's try again. So, you control your character, move around in the level, and when you kick the barrel, the animal is rescued. This is from the game Richard Kicker, the animal rescue game. That's why we are breaking the barrels. These ninjas are kind of annoying because they have the ability to fly. That's actually one of the bugs in the system. I forgot to put them any weight on the physics engine, so they started to fly around. But since they are ninjas, they fly around, so Wyman decided to keep that action. So where did these ninjas come from? We have groups of enemies. For example, here is one of the enemies. You can see them because they are not, well, or are not currently viewable, but they are activated when you get the certain script. So if I activate the group 1, 3 ninjas will appear on the screen. There's one, there's other one, and this is the third one. Okay, so the ninjas are attacking me since I have mentioned here that they have colliders, they have bodies, they follow this sort of script which should be viewable, and this script more or less manages to how the logistics work. So basically it's using a sort of raycast collision, seeing that if the enemy is able to hit me, is in certain distance and uses the attack animation, then I lose health. So this is the coding part here. But anyway, also the enemies only appear when this group is activated. Similarly with the animals, we have a barrel, and actually on each barrel we have bear. The bear just runs back to wood because I have set a waypoint on the background, and I have also said that the bear isn't actually affected by physics, so it doesn't collide with the large barriers that are limiting the area. Like, for example, the bounding box of sky ensures that this is not sky, but it's one of the 4 walls at the level, ensuring that nothing actually flies out of the level itself. You'll get more used to this stuff. But basically everything works like this. We have objects, which we disable or enable or move around. We have animations, which we are using on the animation controller. We have scripts, which tells how the objects should behave. And for example, when they are moving, they should be playing the walk animation. And all the other interaction more or less happens this way. If we don't have physics enabled for objects, they fall down towards the direction of the, down, which we can also define. If they are static objects, they sort of just float around and all the other things. But you will get you will get the idea when these things are explained on the course tutorials on the web pages. Anyway, so what you want to do? Get yourself a workstation or laptop and download your own copy of Unity Engine. Select your tutorial or set of tutorials from the Unity website, and since this net access also it's not working, go to the unity3d.com, and there you will find learn links like Learn Unity and Tutorial Projects. Select 2 of the 5 projects available on the site and start doing them. When you have finished the tutorials, design your own game based on what you have learned, what might be interesting to you, and come see me at follow-up day or my consultation hour, or arrange a separate meeting via email. When you have finalized your own game, present your work to me again, and then if I give approval, put your game available online. When every game when every personal project is online and available, or I know from you that you don't want to complete the project, then I'll give the review forms and links to those games, and you do the review and submit the reports to me. And when I get all the reviews, I give my own grades, and then you will get your final grade from this course. Simple, really. Also, be present at the follow-up days, follow the course pages at Noppa, and next time, and the Details about the follow-up days will be put on the course pages, as will be these slides, as will be the recording if everything went okay. There's a recorder getting over my sound, and the flashing thing you see on the overhead projector is the area that the recording software is actually capturing. So, that's about it for today. On the first follow-up day, we will talk more about the how game development or how games are developed in contrast to software. But for now, it's enough that you go find yourself the Unity software, get accustomed to it, browse through the tutorial projects, and decide if you want to start doing this work. If you decide that, okay, this sounds fun, I want to try this out, send me an email so that I know that you have actually started the course. With any problem, anything to ask, anything to comment, or something else, send me an email. Okay. Anyone have anything to ask at this point? Excellent. So, well, I'll put you more information to Noppa pages when we have the follow-up days organized, and otherwise, well, go see the Unity, visit the website, and send me an email if you want to start this module. Okay, good.